Hello and welcome to this video that will teach you how to do history research using the Walters State Library and databases. My name is Audrey Shoemaker. I'm a librarian at Walters State, and I work mostly with history classes teaching students how to find both secondary and primary sources for their research projects. If you ever need to contact me, say you have a question about research, you can do that in a couple different ways. I'm right here on the library website. This is Walters State's library website. If you scroll down, that's me. And here is my office phone number and my email address. I'm also likely in your eLearn class list as a research coach, and you can access me there, and I will respond within about 24 hours to any research-related questions you have about your course. This video will teach you how to use the library to access mostly secondary sources in our databases, and it will also touch on how to begin research for primary sources if you need those as well. What's the difference between a secondary and a primary source? Secondary sources are like our textbook or any book that uses lots of primary sources within it. What does that mean? A primary source is a letter, a diary, a lot of other things that were created in the time period, and historians pull them together and create an analysis of a historical time period, place, person, event, something like that. So secondary sources are the types of sources you use in a paper that were written by historians and analyze lots of documentation from a period of history. By contrast, if this is a secondary source about George Washington, this is a primary source that's by George Washington. This is a journal of my journey over the mountains, and this is something he wrote in March of 1747. It is a primary source because it is a product of the time period that was inhabited by the person who created it. So this is the kind of thing that historians use to create this kind of thing. So keeping in mind how many secondary and primary sources you are required to use in your assignment is an important part of performing the research that you need to do to complete it satisfactorily. Walters State provides access to hundreds of thousands of secondary sources that can be used in history, but how do you get to them? The first thing you should do is go to the library website, which is library.ws.edu. It's also, you can get there from the Walters State main page. So this is the Walters State homepage. Go to library, and then scroll down to the A to Z database list. Choose from the All Subjects button right here. We're going to narrow our databases down until we get to just the history databases. Now, what is a database? A database is nothing more or less than a highly organized collection of information. When things are added to the database, they are tagged with a whole lot of important information for pulling them back out. So the first one we're going to look at today is the eBook Academic Collection. The eBook Academic Collection is a large collection of full-length books. It's like going to the library and browsing the shelves, but you're doing it from home. If you're at home and you click on one of these database titles, you may be prompted for a username and password. It's simply your eLearn credentials. The front page of most databases look like this. There's a bunch of search boxes with a bunch of options you can change, and this is how you access the collection of organized information. There are hundreds of thousands of books in here, and when each one of them has been added to that collection, the database, the creators of the database have marked each book with the title, the author's name, subject terms, things like that. And we use those terms to bring back information and relevant resources to what we're researching. Think of accessing a database like this. At the beginning of your searching, you have access to everything that's in the database, and your job is to filter out the things you don't need all the way down to the things you do need. So you're moving things away from your search results that are not helpful. The first thing you should do is try a subject term search, or the name of a person if you are researching a specific person. For example, if I wanted to write about public health in the 20th century, so this is a historical paper, the first thing I would try is public health. I use quotation marks around multi-word phrases so that the database finds the two words together as a phrase and doesn't individually search for them. I'm going to click search, and I have 3,279 results. The problem with almost all of the results at the beginning, the ones that are most relevant to my search, is that they are contemporary books. They're books that talk about public health now. So what I can do is I can filter my results further by giving the database a second term to search for. So I'm going to add the word history. This AND tool right here creates what almost looks like a Venn diagram, if you can envision it. One circle has the words public health in it, one circle has the word history in it, and they overlap. And in the middle are the resources that mention both public health and history. And that's what I'm trying to get at with my search. So I'm going to click search again. I should have fewer results this time, right? And it filtered out most of the results. So now I'm getting public health history books. Now the question I have at this point is, are they all US based? And they are not. So I'm going to add one more circle to my Venn diagram by searching for United States. And this has narrowed down my results again and gotten rid of about 2/3 of them. Now I can start looking through these books to see if any of them are particularly useful. I could add another circle if I wanted to and see if there are any books that specifically address cholera. 5 results. I'm going to scroll down, and these books all mention cholera in them somewhere. Now, if I have narrowed my results down too far, I can always go to a point where I felt like I was on the right track. So I'm going to go back to that search where I had public health and history in the United States, but had not narrowed it down to cholera yet. And then I'm going to look through these books. I'm going to open up this first book, Exhibiting Public Health Displays in the Progressive Era. I can look at some information about the book. I can open the book. I can go down here at the table of contents and see if there's a specific chapter that's going to be useful to me. I'm going to open the book here. And there are a couple very useful tools. If I find that this book is helpful, specific sections of it can be saved. I can click on Save Pages. I'm allowed to download up to 100 pages of this book, and they do not have to be consecutive. I can download them in chunks. I can email pages to myself. I can send myself the permalink. And I can grab the citation for this book in APA or MLA form. Now the book I'm looking at right now is a secondary source, but the database can be used, this specific database can be used to find primary sources as well. Sometimes collections of letters and diaries and other things are published that are still primary sources from the time period. They're published in a collection. So what you might do in that situation is, if I was looking for Abraham Lincoln's speeches or letters, I could put Lincoln in here as my search term, and I'm going to change how I'm searching to author. So I want to find out if there's any books in here that were written by Lincoln himself. Now Lincoln is a very popular name, so now I'm going to add Abraham to my search. And now I'm finding books full of his letters, his political writings and speeches. This works with almost any president. It also works with lots of prominent historical figures. If I go back to the A to Z database list, I can access other databases as well that may be helpful in my historical research. First, depending on what you're researching, you may want to try these History in Context databases. You may need to log into this database. If you're at home, you'll be using your eLearn username and credentials. When you log in, you should be able to see this front page. This database works by aggregating types of sources for what you're researching. It works best, again, to try a subject term search, but you can use people's names as well. I'm going to try cholera again. And the database is showing me that there are a number of different types of resources available to me. The most useful ones for your research will be academic journal articles, so that's historians who are analyzing those types of resources we talked about earlier. You may also be interested in the primary sources that are available. And you may want to also look at things like biographies. This database is best used by going through the types of sources. Now, I didn't include just United States at this time, so we would want to narrow it down a bit more from there too. This is one of the databases that also provides some primary sources. So if I click on primary sources, it will pull some of those together for me. There's often a commentary on it, so it will explain the type of source it is. This primary source is actually a song. Primary sources come in almost an innumerable number of formats. They can be speeches, either transcripts or recordings of them. They can be video of things like protest marches or interviews. They can be letters, diaries, newspaper articles, advertisements. Even things like clothing or tools or recipes can serve as a primary source if there is something to be gleaned from studying them from a historical perspective. If we go back to the A to Z database list, there are a couple more places you might want to stop if you're looking for secondary sources about your topic. The first is American National Biography Online. This is provided by Oxford Reference and is a good place to look for biographical information about Americans who have passed away. So you will not find current biographies in here, but if the person you're researching was American or influential in America, and they have passed, then they're likely to be in here. Let's take an example from this front page. I see a picture of Henry Ford here, so let's just search Ford. And when we access the resources that are provided by this database, we want to keep a couple of things in mind. There will be people who have similar names. We want to make sure we're finding the correct person. We want to pay attention to birth and death dates. And we also need to know first names and things like that. I'm going to keep scrolling until I find the Henry Ford whose image obviously lines up with what I'm looking for, but also whose death dates line up with it as well. And you will notice he did name his son after himself as well. So this picture is the Henry Ford we're looking for, but using these death dates, I noticed that if I want the article and not just the image, I need to scroll down and open it up right here. This database provides the citation information as well. It is a secondary source. Lots of great biographical information, and if I want to find the citation, I click here. I can change the format in which it's presented to me, so APA or MLA. Copy and paste that into my work as well. The last database I want to address quickly is JSTOR. So in the A to Z database list, click on JSTOR. You'll notice that there is a username and password right here. You will have to log into this database. When you click on JSTOR, go to Login and log in very quickly. I'm running out of time here. All right, my preferred way to use this database is by using the advanced search option. This database does not function on subject terms, it functions on full text. So we're looking for articles that mention specific things. We're going to try public health again, and we're going to add history. We're going to tell it that we only want articles and books. And we're going to scroll down to the types of journals we're looking for. So I'm going to do history instead of health policy because I really want articles that are secondary sources that analyze public health history. I could also add United States up here to avoid information about public health history in other countries. This database allows me to read full text, to save, to cite, to download. I'm going to open up this first article. Now this one is from 2019. This database actually does have primary sources in it as well. So that is something to look for, is the year of publication, and then decide, am I looking at a secondary or a primary source? The cite tool is right here. The download tool is here. This was a very quick run through of a few of the databases that we have available on the Walters State Library website. Please don't hesitate to contact me through your eLearn class list or using the email address that's available on the front page of the library website. Good luck with your research, and I look forward to talking about it with you.